So we live in a very exciting time right now. We have more access to information than ever before in human history, which affords us many luxuries and affords us so much choice and freedom in what we think and what we do in our life and our lifestyles. But this also comes with a lot of downsides and a lot of negative consequences, mainly dealing with too much information and what to do with the information, and then also taking in so much information that we never actually apply it and get any sort of real benefit from it. So what I'm going to do in this video is share with you a few ways which can help you deal with the information overwhelm that is probably only going to increase and only going to get worse as time goes on. And this will just give you a good framework to be able to sort through and deal with that so it will no longer be a stressor for you. So the first and the most important thing that you have to do is to, number one, define your priorities and your objectives, meaning goals, things that you're wanting to achieve, reasons essentially why you're researching or reading. Because really you can't hit a target that you can't see, and if you don't have anything defined, you're just going to drift and meander aimlessly and essentially get nowhere. So that's the first and the most important thing. You have to think, well, why am I doing this? What am I looking for? What is it that I want to achieve? And then just that alone will immediately narrow your focus, because then you can come across a piece of information and say, oh, this actually has nothing to do with my goals, or it won't directly help me with this, so I'll just put it aside for later, or just, ignore it altogether. So the second step to this process, which definitely ties into the first, is to do an 80-20 analysis, which is, once you've found your priorities and your objectives, to then look at sort of all of your inputs and determine what are the small few, the 20% of inputs that are going to produce the 80% of your results that you're looking for. So basically just taking these two together, you're able to first, number one, define what you're looking for, and then number two, sift through all of the different inputs and stimuli and figure out and see which is actually going to demonstrate or help you produce the results. And then you can eliminate, most of it, which might be a waste of time, and then only focus on, the hypercritical, very important, very beneficial few. So we need to realize when we're dealing with all this information that if we don't have these two pieces in place, it's kind of like going to a buffet every couple of hours and just gorging ourselves, but never really taking the time to just sit down and rest and digest and actually process. And there's also kind of a saying in the nutrition world, which is, it's not what you eat, it's what you actually absorb and utilize. And this concept is just as relevant and applicable here with dealing with and inputting ideas into our body. And coincidentally enough, in Chinese medicine, the spleen system, or the stomach, the pancreas, that part of the digestive system, correlates to kind of our thoughts and our intellectual sort of capabilities. So it's much in the same process. We dump in a bunch of information but don't digest it, probably going to get backed up and feel a little sick, a little off, or just a little imbalanced. Because in the end, it's less about quantity and more about quality. Again, it's not how much you can eat and how much you can take in, but what you can actually absorb and utilize and put into use. Because in reality, one or two really simple ideas that you can actually apply and actually work with are worth far more than big grandiose ideas and philosophies and concepts, which to me personally is a bit of a struggle, because, like for example, you might see a book and say, wow, this idea looks cool, but then they take 500 pages to explain the idea, and it's like, just really, you could probably distill this down to a few points which could actually be useful and applicable to a person right now, but instead, it's just, here's a bunch of theory, have fun with it. And to me, it doesn't really do anyone any good, because we don't really need more theory, we don't really need more ideas, we just need sort of practical applications, things we can actually work with, which is a lot of what I do in my videos. I try to make it as simple and as direct and as applicable as possible. And it takes a lot more, I think, sort of power to take a lot and turn it into a little than it is to just come up with a lot and come up with a lot and come up with a lot and just keep jibber jabbering forever. Which is funny because if you read, books like the Tao Te Ching or many Taoist texts, it's really simple. It's just like a couple sentences, but when you get it, when it hits you, it's like an encyclopedia of information contained within a little sentence. So again, one or two simple ideas, far more beneficial, far more helpful than just long theories or grandiose philosophical explorations. Which is also why I quit being a philosophy major in college, because it's just about exploration, not necessarily about simple things. But anyways, back to the point of this video. So at this point, I really have to interject my just deep desire for all of us to really grow up and mature. And by that I mean to understand the following points that I'm going to make. And by understand, I mean literally feel it, literally digest it, literally understand it, not just intellectually approve, like, yeah, dude, that's a good idea, great, like just pay it lip service. Which is oftentimes people do that in conversation. You'll say something and they immediately respond because you can tell they didn't actually like get it or process it. They're just like just reacting basically. So that's not what I want you to. I want you to just digest it and get it and feel it in here, not just in here. So what are the points I'm referring to? First and foremost is to realize that the linguistic and symbolic world is essentially a black hole with no end. And you can literally be trapped there forever and never really get out. And this is, a lot of people spend their life that way, honestly. And if you've ever seen the symbol of Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail, pretty much sums it up. Second point is that to realize that the map is not the territory. Realize that the words we use to describe the tangible, visceral, and somatic reality are just symbols and representations. And remember, we invented the symbols. And remember that. We invented the symbols. We invented the concepts. We invented the ideas, the philosophies, the ideas, the allegories, all of those things. And take that into consideration. Realize when you're painting the picture, realize, I'm painting the picture. Wait, the brush is in my hand. It's not in someone else's hand, it's in mine. So I can, change it if I like. So because of these two factors, you will very likely see endless variations upon similar ideas. I mean, just look at, quote, the diet world or nutrition world or health world. Endless variations on very similar ideas, many of which contradict and many of which disprove each other. So we can say, oh, well, they're just all wrong and they're all bad ideas. But in reality, it's just our mental constructs are bad. Because we need to let go of the Aristotelian dogma that realize that things are not always black and white. It's not always either or. It's usually, things are really mostly not that simple. So we need to realize when looking at ideas and theories and concepts, it's less about being black and white and more about producing results, more about what works for you and what can help you achieve your goals. So the reason why I threw out all of those ideas and concepts is because in the end it's really one simple idea looked at from a couple of different angles, and it will really help you and empower you to be able to sort through and deal with and process all of this information which will inevitably come at you every time you come online or every time you try to research a subject. So keep all of that in mind, refer back to it, and I can almost guarantee you that you'll have more freedom and flexibility and peace of mind and less overwhelm in dealing with all the information that comes at us and is inevitably going to come at us for a long time to come. So hopefully that's been helpful. These are things that have helped me, so I'm sharing them with you. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.